Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and welcome to the 2021 SGA Executive Debate, hosted by The Tower, Catholic University's independent student newspaper. My name is Jessica Petro, and I'm the editor-in-chief of The Tower. I'm joined today by Noelia Veras, the managing editor of The Tower, and the 2021 SGA presidential candidates, Abby Anger and Alan Cunningham. Today, we will be asking the candidates a series of questions so that the student body will be able to understand a little bit more about each candidate and their initiatives.
All right, so each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond to the question asked. We ask the candidates, please respect one another and do not interrupt while another candidate is speaking. There will be a rebuttal portion of the debate after the initial round of questions, where the candidates will be able to interact with and respond to one another. I will signal when each candidate has 30 seconds left to answer the question, and again when the candidate has 15 seconds left. And with that, we move on to tonight's questions.
All right, thank you very much, Noelia. First, if you could both take about 15 to 20 seconds to introduce yourself and your involvement on campus. We'll start with Alan first.
Well, thank you to the Tower for hosting us, and of course, Abby for joining us tonight. My name is Alan Cunningham. I'm a junior politics and sociology major at the Catholic University of America. I am a junior and, I am a junior and I am running for SGA president. I'm so sorry. But I've been involved in a unique number of ways on campus, whether it's student leadership and executive roles on student organizations or involved with, as a student worker as an HSA. My campaign with Jordan and Grace is all about running on the issues that matter for students. It's about hearing students, it's about seeing students, and it's about really standing up and fighting for a new sort of Catholic University of America and a new SGA that prides itself on student power and student change and getting real results done. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Senator Anger, would you like to go ahead? Secretary. Sorry, I realized as soon as I said it.
No, you're so good. Well, thank you both so much. Thanks, Jess, and thanks, Molly, for coming tonight. Thank you for the Tower for hosting us. Thanks, Alan, for coming as well, and all the viewers. Really excited to talk about the Hands and Hearts team's policies. My name is Abby Anger. I am a junior double major in politics and psychology, and I have a double minor in Hispanic studies and theology and religious studies. I'm a junior this year, and on campus, I'm involved in lots of different activities. One is being a student minister. So this year I've served as a virtual minister. Next year I will be serving as a resident minister. So I've had great relationships with campus ministry through that. I'm also a member of the Cardinals for Life, the Politics Advisory Board, and the Student Philanthropy Council, as well as serving as this year's executive secretary. And I'm the presidential candidate for the Hands and Hearts team. So excited to talk you guys through our policies and how we view the changes that campus needs to see, and we have actionable and tangible ways to achieve them. Really excited for tonight.
All right, thank you both so much for that. And we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into your initiatives right now. So this question is for both of you, and we'll start with Abby first. What are the initiatives of your individual campaigns, and what are your exact ideas to reach these goals?
So let me just start by saying that the Hands and Hearts team has been working for months. We've been working alongside over 25 student leaders on campus from different roles, from RAs to student ministers to minority students to athletes, to craft these policies. So we have several policy areas, including representation, expanded academic reform, tax reform, student health, an executive budget, fiscal responsibility, and expanding representation. And we have real actionable ideas on how to achieve these, such as for representation. We're working to create an Africana Studies program specifically to find funding for that, because that is where that program needs to be addressed. For academic reform, we are really looking at different minors that are being taken away for next year, such as a sustainability minor, and how we can address that. For tax reform, we're going to see how we can reallocate resources to ensure there's equity between students who are and are not in the Honors College. For student health, we're going to see how we can refocus the Campus Wellness Initiative to focus on mental health and really partnering with the Counseling Center and Active Minds and other mental health resources on campus. We also have Title IX reform, which is something I'm particularly passionate about, and we have real plans on how to change that. Such as creating different resource stations in campus to support survivors, as well as making an executive initiative for Title IX, which has never been done before. So we not only have great ideas, but we have real and actionable ways on how to achieve them. And I'm looking forward to expanding on them more throughout the night.
All right, thank you very much for that. Alan, would you like to go ahead and respond to the question?
Yeah, thank you. So the WeCU team has been working diligently since we became official candidates about a couple months ago. And we've been working primarily by reaching out and speaking to students and listening to their concerns, which has been our motto of student leadership since the beginning. And through that, we have come up with a number of priorities that we've been coming out with. First off, the bridging the divide, which we believe in the wake of the COVID-19, our campus and campus life has been more divided than ever in a number of different ways. And the pandemic has only exacerbated these divides. And when it comes to fixing these issues, in a policy matter, we have a number of different initiatives, including fighting for student workers, which is particularly an important one for me, standing up and fighting for a $15 minimum wage, which is what DC state law has currently, addressing Title IX, as Abby Anger eloquently talked about. We also agree with supporting survivors, as we've talked to a number of them. We've heard their concerns and know that we need changes in that area. A greener CUA, of course, issues of accessibility and accountability, particularly in academics, which we have a number of academic reforms that we're looking at, as well as prioritizing internships and how to have our university expand upon what we can do for students, as well as student health, which is to us one of the most important issues: student healthcare, women's healthcare, and mental health care on campus. Thank you.
All right, thank you both so much. This question is for Abby. You currently serve as the SGA secretary. How has your experience as secretary directly prepared you for the SGA presidential position?
Thank you so much. I'd like to start by saying that my experience within the current SGA is my biggest strength. Working in SGA, I've had direct control over our outreach and communications, and there's been significant progress. We redesigned our website. We've gained over 1,200 followers on Instagram. We made a legislation tracker. We're producing legislation pieces for the public to see. That's never been done before Senate meetings. So there's been tangible change in the areas that I've controlled. That's why I'm running to be president, because I see room for growth and improvement that the president position allows a student to make. So that's why I'm running, because I really do see real change, such as advocating and publicizing advocacy meetings. So talking to students about what the administrators are saying and being super open and communicative about what those look like is something that I want to do, and something that I wouldn't have known about that needs to change if I was not in this position. Because I'm in SGA, I know what needs to change, and I have the SGA know-how to make that a reality. If I had never been in SGA before, how can you enact change in the body if you don't know how it's run? So I'm really looking forward to be able to enact the changes, and I wouldn't be running if I didn't see a way forward of real change from how the current executive has done it. But this experience has well prepared me, and I know how to make these changes moving forward, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that.
All right, thank you very much for that. Alan, how effective do you think this year's SGA decisions were regarding issues such as inclusivity, diversity, online classes, the environment, etc.?
Yeah, well, there have been a number of successes within the current executive, and I think that's obvious, especially when, for me, if you look at their leadership when it comes to their initiatives, as well as their green initiative, particularly. I think Gerald has stood up and done a wonderful job as president. But of course, there are a load of differences that I would have done, and that's part of the reason why I'm running today. You know, I believe that SGA, to really be the most effective tool for student advocacy on campus, really needs to completely reimagine how it sees student power and student advocacy. That's why our entire team is running. Our team is running to address the concerns of students that really go unsung in SGA. You know, talking about mental health in a real way, in a way that we can actually address it. Talking about women's health in a way in which we can actually make change on campus and do something well to protect students' general health, as well as advocating for internships and preparing students for success in the long run. You know, my entire philosophy on running for office right now and being a student leader is to be the last champion to stand up for students when it comes to talking with the administration and being the last line of defense for protecting students. And I believe that is something that SGA has done as well as it can, but it can do even better when it comes to protecting and standing up and fighting for students.
All right, thank you very much for that. This question is for both of you, and we'll start with Alan first. What are the strengths of your campaign, and what is unique about your cabinet when you're comparing it to the present SGA board, or when you're comparing it to the other candidates?
Yeah, I think it's not kind of funny to be a little bit of the complete opposite of what Abby said a minute ago, but I think our greatest strength is that I'm not on SGA currently right now. And Thankfully, I did go to the Catholic University of America where I studied politics, so I'm not that worried about trying to understand how a student government club works. So I fully believe that our team is ready and prepared to be the champions of advocates for students. And that's really what it's about. SGA executive is the final line of advocacy to the administration. And when in that department, you need leaders who will always stand up and fight for you and not back down when the going gets tough. That they will be the final line of defense when healthcare comes up for debate, when accessibility comes up to debate, when workforce are being mistreated and given a lower minimum wage than what our district applies for them, to be that final defense and standing up and giving students what's right. Us as a Catholic University of America, our students need to be seen by our student government in a way that they have not been before. And our administration needs to recognize the concerns and actually do what we deserve and get what we need in which they have not done before. So there's a lot that we need to do for my team. And I know I didn't mention them quickly, but Jordan is brilliant. Grace is also brilliant. And they are also have the same motive and the same drive to really make change on campus. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Abby, would you like to go ahead and respond to the same question?
Sure, thank you. So I'd like to say that our team is very involved across campus. Not only do we have through residence life, through student ministry, through Chronos for Life, through WCUA, multiple student organizations across campus in the CCE, we really do have a great understanding of students because we've been serving them since we came to campus. We've built intentional relationships. We truly know them. You know, how can you represent the students if you don't know them and you can't talk about their experiences in a genuine way? So our team is really taking an approach of servant leadership. That's something that we've talked about really since the beginning. You know, our motto, hands to serve, hearts to lead, comes from Mother Teresa's quote and her mission and her call to action. So we would be approaching it from our experience because we know students. We have relationships with students from all different backgrounds and walks of life. So I think that really sets the four of us apart, as well as having real, tangible, actionable ideas. You know, I think that the ideas we have are not just lofty ideas and false promises. We are making real, tangible change and actionable ideas that we've been working on for months alongside students. So I think that we can get into more of those throughout the night, but I'm really proud of our team for coming up with realistic change that we can implement. I think that's something that sets our ticket apart from the other ticket.
All right, thank you both very much for that. This question is for Abby. How will you work as president towards creating a stronger sense of transparency between SGA and the student body?
Of course. So that's one of the things that I really dedicated myself to this year. But I think next year, as we're returning to normal, the options for that really greatly expand. We're going to have a lot more in-person events. You know, our office hour plan will be completely in person. So that'll be senators, treasury board members, executive members sit in the office waiting to welcome students, waiting to have a nice talk, get some coffee, and have those real conversations in person will be a great change for transparency in SGA that could not be accomplished this year. One thing that I do plan to do differently than the current administration, the current president specifically, is publicize advocacy updates. I do think that there has been a sense from students on campus that SGA is protecting administrative relationships and not really advocating for the students. One of the big things that I think students deserve to know is what we're talking about in these conversations. As president, I would be advocating for you to our administrators. And you deserve to be updated and constantly aware of how those conversations are going. And not sugarcoating them, having real conversations because students deserve to know what we're talking about. So I think being more transparent in administrative advocacy would be a difference from this current executive and a strong component of my executive's approach to SGA.
All right, thank you very much. Alan, I know you've touched on this throughout your answers, but what specifically inspired you to run for president and what motivates you to improve the student experience at CUA?
Yeah, there's been to me, it is, and I believe SGA has done a number of good things, but it has largely been inaction. You know, I've been on this campus for 3 years, so I've seen pretty much, and I've seen and lived through most issues that I'm running on. And so basically everybody else we've talked to, we know the issues. And to say that, you know, our ideas that we're coming up with, you know, while they might seem like a wish list on Catholic University's campus, they're actually what's necessary. When it comes to fighting for something like a $15 minimum wage for which would primarily go to students who are most affected by this pandemic, that's not untangible. That's what's needed. When it comes for healthcare, we don't need to wait for a global pandemic to show that this university is lacking behind and where we can fight. Fixing that is not, unrealistic. It's needed. Standing up for women's healthcare and standing up for just everyday healthcare is not something that is so unrealistic that we could never talk about it. We should never bring it up. It is something that's incredibly needed. It's needed at this moment. Academic reform is needed. When no kid can find an internship, we need this university to step up and look for what we can do to fix things. When it comes to fighting for, when it comes to bridging the divide, which we believe is one of the biggest issues, it takes action, not inaction, to solve these issues. And it's not a wish list. It's not intangible. It's not unrealistic. It's what we need our student leaders to do. I'd rather get caught trying than to get caught being complacent when it comes to student leadership. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. This question is for Abby. This year, there was a significant focus within SGA and the university as a whole to work towards being a more inclusive and diverse community. Do you feel that the current SGA has done an efficient job of that mission? And how do you plan on continuing this mission?
For sure. So that was definitely a priority for this year for our university as a whole, specifically with the Africana studies. So our executive actually really worked closely with the senators that put that forward in doing the research through our research committee. So we utilize our resources as an executive to support senators in their legislation for inclusivity. So I think that was a very clear moment of working towards that. Our administration sees room for improvement, of course, raising up student voices. And we've done that through the team and the people that we've had surrounding us since the beginning and having a voice in our policies, specifically with creating a transfer and commuter student executive initiative, giving those students a home, increasing their voice, giving them a place to speak about their experiences with SGA. Also working to implement the Thea-Bowman Committee recommendations. Those come out next September. So really holding the administration accountable and ensuring that those recommendations come to fruition will be a priority for our administration. Also working to fund the Sister Thea Bowman Scholarship for minority students. It's something that has been talked about a lot this year, and there have been great steps taken towards that. But in these conversations, we're realizing that the real barrier between making that a reality is funding. So our administration will be really focused on looking for resources, connecting with alumni. How can we push for funding in that area and in that role? So that's all the ways that we include students, also bringing them into the conversations, including them in our administration, in our executive, encouraging people to run for the Senate. So we really have an expansive plan on how to include more student voices and include minority students as well.
Thank you very much for that. Alan, this question is for you. The coronavirus pandemic has obviously played a major role in the 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021 academic years. Has SGA done enough to represent the student body and voice their concerns? And how do you plan to continue to represent the student body's health and mental health as president of SGA going forward?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And, I'll be honest, it's a mixed bag when it comes to response to COVID. There have been definitely positive steps. And I think, Gerald and the executive stepped up in a way that was unprecedented for their challenges. So I commend them for that. But there are definitely things that we need to do and should have done differently. And when it comes to, I know you mentioned mental health, so I'll start right there with that and say that, a month and a half wait for your next appointment is unacceptable at the student health center, student counseling center. I remember when I was a student, my first year, I went to the counseling centers with personal issues, and they told me I could not meet. I went there in about October. They said I couldn't be there till March. And that should not happen. It shouldn't happen to me. It shouldn't happen to anyone who's struggling right now during this COVID-19 pandemic. So when we look at issues of mental health, we have to offer new avenues for students to get there, more increased counseling appointments and increased counseling opportunities for students, and even opportunities outside of campus for emergencies. Because if the school cannot do what they need to do for us, they need to provide avenues in which we can have adequate service. And that goes for our healthcare policy as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. We're going to enter the rebuttal session, section for the night. So basically, this is supposed to be a more inter-candidate dynamic with you both. Sorry, I stuttered there a minute. But if you care to respond directly to the question or respond, including that their candidate and their initiatives, feel free to. We're going to limit the rebuttal time for 30 seconds if you choose to respond to the candidate directly. And with that, we'll get started. So this question will start with Abby. What is the single most significant initiative or goal of your campaign, and how do you plan to bring that exact initiative to life?
I would say that what I am most passionate about on our policy agenda is Title IX reform. There are survivors on our campus and their voices deserve to be heard, and SGA is the perfect place to give them a place to have their voices heard. That's never been done before. No SGA campaigns have ever focused on Title IX, so being able to bring that to the forefront. We really have tangible actions that we're going to take, such as creating resource centers and dorms across campus for survivors to review their options during a time of crisis, introducing renewable Title IX programs for upperclassmen. Freshman orientation shouldn't be the only time that you're receiving Title IX information. It needs to be done yearly to ensure that students are well versed in their options. And we're going to create an executive initiative for Title IX that works with the Dean of Students office and peers. I just want to say that I worked with the Title IX office over the summer. So I have personal experience with that office. I know the people in it. I know we can get things done. So we can go in and start the day off having that relationship to make real progress and ensure that survivors' voices are heard on campus.
All right, thank you very much. Alan, would you like to respond to the same question?
Yeah, I'll just talk about our Title IX priorities, just to mirror what Abby Anger said. I believe she has a great plan. Ours does have some distinctions, and I talked to the office as well as having a number of conversations with survivors. And I talked to one a couple months ago, and she told me about her experience, and she said, I told her what would help us, what would help you, what could the school have done better? And she said, I was like, was it more this, was it more that, what would be best? And she said, honestly, when it came to them handling her case, she said, what I needed more of was an outside person to help me. And that is exactly what we need to protect survivors, because it is really hard to come forward on campus, and it's really hard to have the campus handle your case while also trying to provide you counseling services. It's a very difficult rope to walk, and you feel it's very hard to come forward even in that position. So providing outside resources and outside counsel and outside help and case advocates for these women and men is critical to our Title IX reform policy.
Thank you very much for that.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, limited to 15 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So I know the WeCU campaign proposed a dashboard to publicize sexual assault cases on campus. I just want to say I think that'd be very traumatic for survivors. We should be putting forth survivor first policy and treating them more than just a tick on a dashboard.
Alan, you will also get 15 seconds, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah, I would just say I could completely disagree with that notion. We ran that policy by at least a small handful of survivors. That was their idea. That idea came from them. We believe that knowing what happens on this campus is critical to staying safe on this campus. And that is not my words, that's the words of the survivors.
Okay, as a survivor, I can say that this would be traumatic. I know it would. Private stories should not be shared as a tick on a dashboard. Student stories are more than that and should be treated as so, and the Hands and Hearts team would make that a reality. Students deserve more.
Thank you both for sharing your perspectives. I appreciate it very much. We will move on to the next question, though, just because we'd like to make this move as smoothly as possible. What would you argue is the biggest concern of the current student body, and how would you work to address it? We'll start with Alan first.
Yeah, as we said, holistically, I believe we need to bridge the divide in the wake of COVID-19. We have a freshman class that spent an entire year in essentially an empty campus. We have students coming back from all across this nation from different places. We have created so many different levels of separation that we as a community need to come together. Catholic University's greatest strength is within its community. So once we're able, and I believe that is the most easy, I don't want to say easiest, but it is the most tangible thing for student government to address. So addressing that first, and then fighting for students, fighting for the inequities on campus would automatically come second.
All right, thank you very much. Abby, would you like to go ahead with a 30-second rebuttal?
For sure. So I would say that community is the #1 priority for our administration, but we've been working to build community all year. I've served as a student minister. Some of the other team members have served as orientation advisors. We've been serving students all year to try to build back the community. And by moving forward next year into an in-person setting, we could just capitalize on the intentional relationships that we've been building all year. We didn't just start building relationships a few months ago. We've been serving students since we walked onto campus and know students, so we can truly represent them. And community building would be a priority for our administration next year.
All right, thank you both for that. That brings a close to our rebuttal section. So before we close out the night, would you both like to share about a minute and a half of any other comments you'd like to make or anything you feel that we didn't cover? We'll start with Abby.
So just to clarify, is this our conclusion statement or is this just like a...
This would be a conclusion statement.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you, Alan, for coming. It was great to kind of talk through all of our policies. So I would encourage students to vote for the Hands and Hearts team. Vote for myself, for Monica Wallace, for Curtis Balmer, and for Phil Ahern. We have a full team. We've been working for months together, and we have a great working relationship. We've also been working alongside students from all walks of life on campus to truly get to know their experiences. And we have real policies. We've been working on representation, expanded academic curriculum, Title IX reform, community building, and a multitude of other things and policies that we want to see changed. We're also going to be taking an approach of servant leadership. You've seen the four of us on campus. We've been serving you in different capacities. We're your friends, we're your neighbors. We've been working alongside you since the beginning, and it would be an honor to serve you. I also want to say that I'm not running to be president to build up my resume or to have students know my name on campus. I truly want to be able to serve them and get to know them better, and how we can improve our campus together, how we can work towards a real change will be a priority for myself if elected president, and a priority for the Hands and Hearts team. So students, make sure to give your hands to serve and your hearts to lead, and vote for us on April 6th.
All right, thank you very much. Alan, would you like to go ahead and make a closing statement?
Yes, thank you to the Tower, obviously, for hosting us, and Abby for joining us for this conversation tonight. I'm a student on this university. Every problem that our team has put together and put forward has been one that I've experienced, or Jordan has experienced, or Grace has experienced. And we've been involved on this campus since day one. We're ready to fight for you. The executive is the final line of defense and advocacy for students. And SGA has for years almost got it. They almost did it, but we need to finally drive home the need for change on this campus. We need to reimagine student leadership. We need to reimagine student advocacy and power on this campus to demand the things that others might see as a dream. We can do what is necessary for students. We can do what needs to be done in the wake of this horrible pandemic. We have to, and we need to address the inequities and the injustices that have plagued this campus for years. When it comes to healthcare, when it comes to student workers and the green initiatives and acceptance and accessibility, so many plans can only do so much, but leadership can do so much more. And when it comes to things like injustices on campus, no law ever stopped racism or ever stopped discrimination in this country. What did was change. What we need to do is address the culture. So no plan is going to fully work. We need to address the culture, and our team of everyday students is ready to address what needs to be done on Seaway's campus to make it a better place for all students. We hear you. We're going to fight for you. And this team, Jordan, Alan, and Grace, sees you. Thank you.
Again, thank you both so much for joining us tonight. You both have very strong campaigns. Best of luck to both of you, and have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
We do appreciate it, guys.